French onion soup is a rustic dish from the countryside of France. That is to say, today's recipe will be French onion soup. This will be a much simpler recipe for about 3 servings, because I find that most recipes have up to 8 to 10 servings, and even with meal prep, I can only eat this about 3 times a week. We will need onions. I'm using 3 Vidalia onions, but 3 large onions. Some demiglace. Yes, I'm buying the expensive stuff here. Also, some beef stock. If you have a nice homemade stock, you can just use that instead. And we also have some thyme and rosemary. We also have some white wine. I'm just using a cheap $10 Texas wine here. And also some brandy. Some gruyere cheese, butter, and some nice sourdough bread. Start by prepping your onions. I'm doing what they call a deep peel here, where I basically chop the onion in half and I'm pulling the outermost layer as well as the paper. I've read before that this makes the onion soup a little bit sweeter, a little less tough. I'm not sure how true it is, but it's just a habit I picked up. Yeah, you gotta get, like I said, looks like you're sacrificing a lot of onion, but trust me, it's gonna taste delicious. Alright, now that you have all your onions prepped, start slicing them into rounds. I'm slicing them pretty thinly here, but keep in mind this is gonna be a soup that's gonna be cooking for at least 2 hours, so you don't have to be super duper precise. You just have to make sure you have them somewhat thin. Also make sure you don't cut your fingers off too. Once you have your final onion slice, go ahead and put them all in one container. I'm using my giant metal bowl. Now get your large cooking vessel. I'm using my Dutch oven again. And heat up about, I'd say, 2 to 4 tablespoons of butter in here. Make sure it's nice and melty before you add in all your onions. Once you have all your onions in, be sure to add in a large pinch of salt. This will help bleach out the water from your onions and make them caramelize even faster. You need to cook this on low heat for about, I'd say, 30 to 45 minutes. Just continually stir it, check it, stir it, check it. Eventually, you will get some nice caramelized onions. Alright, about 45 minutes have passed, and let's take a look at what we got here. Alright. This is what you're looking for. You want to see some nice light brown, golden brown here. Just start stirring it around, make sure that nothing's burning. Now, we add in our wine. We're adding about a cup of white wine. Just go ahead and throw that in there. Next, we're going to be adding in our demiglaze and beef stock. This is frozen stock, so this was quite an adventure getting this out of the container, but trust me, if you have a homemade stock, just use that instead. The flavor will be just as good or better. Now we're going to add in our demi-glaze. Now I'm adding my bouquet garni, or rosemary and thyme tied together by a string. Alright, now that the soup has been simmering for a couple hours, we're going to start making our croutons. Get a couple slices of your sourdough bread. And figure out a good arrangement with your crock. Make sure you have good complete coverage over. That's good right there, like that. We're going to turn these pieces of sourdough bread into croutons. Go ahead and butter one side. The butter side is going to be the side that's going to be broiled, and that is the side that is going to be face down. I'm also adding a third piece of bread butter there just because I always like a little bit of toast with my French onion soup. Once all your bread is buttered, now we're going to brush a little bit of our minced garlic on each piece of bread. This is why I also like minced garlic, because there's always a little bit of liquid in the jar, and you can just use that to brush garlic flavor on anything without having to, say, slice a clove and rub it all over like most recipes say. This is just so much easier. And it's using something that most people won't ever use in a minced garlic jar. How many times have you ever seen a recipe that asks for garlic water? Alright, those look and smell delicious. Let's get them under the broiler. Alright. We're going to remove the bouquet garni, which has been in the soup for at least 2 hours. And now, a splash of cognac. Just a splash. We don't want to make the soup too boozy. There we go. Boom. Just like that. Stir it all in and let that cook off for a couple minutes and just get that raw alcohol flavor out. Now it's time to construct. Take your Gruyere cheese and grate, I'd say, I'm grating about 1/3 of the whole block here. It's really hard to judge that. You really want the cheese to really stack up on top, because once it melts it becomes delicious. Alright, I'm adding a shake of cayenne into my Gruyere cheese. I'm not sure why I do this, I just think it tastes delicious. Alright, now it's time to assemble. Getting a baking sheet here because this is all going to go in the broiler. I'm going to ladle up to the top rim. Some French onion soup into my crock. If you don't have a crock, just any oven safe bowl or even a souffle container will work here, but trust me, if you love French onion soup, you're going to buy yourself a crock. There we go, right on the edge there. A little bit more. Alright, now we're going to stack broiled side down onto the soup. The toasted side will act like a little bit of a liquid barrier. Make sure that it's kind of like playing bread Tetris here. There we go. There we go. A little overlap is perfectly a-okay. So now we're going to add the cheese, stack it on top. Make sure you don't spill too much in there, because anything that's not on top of the bread will pretty much melt into your baking sheet. You're going to have to clean it later. That's a nice mound. Okay, let's pop that sucker out of the broiler. And then it's going to be time to eat some French onion soup. There we have it, a favorite of any French bistro, French onion soup. Look at that. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.